I'm a solutions person. And when there's an issue, I just confront it. I don't freak out. I don't panic. I pivot. And I think it's so important to walk through life that way. But then I had like this little voice that said, well, if it doesn't exist, you're going to create it. And from the moment that I thought of my first event to the moment I had it, it was only 3 days. And I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't care what it's gonna take. I'm gonna figure out a way to make it happen. And just making it the #1 entrepreneurship event in Miami. So I started skipping school and I ended up getting kicked out. And my principal was like, you're just another Latina statistic who'll never amount to anything. I remember looking at myself in the mirror and I said, are you proud of the woman you've become? And I said it out loud. I'm like, no, I'm not proud of who I've become. So what are you gonna do about it? I'm gonna change. Because I experienced so much adversity in my life, I just knew I was meant for something great. I knew I didn't want to be a victim of my circumstances. I've been building epic talks without God at the forefront of my life. I'm getting emotional, sorry. And I was going through some moments where I was just like, oh my God. And I remember just asking for help, like to God. I'm like, Lord, guide me. If you're struggling and you're feeling like forsaken and you're feeling like this is the darkest place you've ever been in, just seek God and He'll be there for you.
First of all, I love your name.
Thank you.
Melitsa. It's different.
Thanks.
And I love different names because I have kind of a different name too. So everybody's always like Manny, and I'm like, no, it's Manning. So so it's nice to meet you, and thanks for doing this.
Absolutely.
So I just dive right in, so one thing I want to like ask you. So, what have you had anything in the last week, or if you have to say the last month, anything that you had to overcome recently from a business perspective or personal perspective?
Yes, this morning.
Okay, good.
So
what happened?
This morning I had a training, right? And I was promoting it and blasting it and had all the automation set up for it. And it was at 11 o'clock in the morning. And when I opened my laptop, I noticed that the battery was dead and I couldn't find my charger. And normally I'm like prepared, you know what I mean? And I was all prepared with like questions people might have and everything. My automations were popping. And the most important thing, I didn't have that ready. So 15 minutes before my workshop, I basically stood in the lobby of my building and I just waited till someone came in, and it was empty downstairs. Like when we were walking in this building, it was empty like that. And I was like, God always comes through for me. And I just waited, and this guy was coming in on a bike, and I was like, do you happen to have a Mac computer? And he was like, no, but my kids do. And I was like, can I borrow your charger? I have a meeting right now in like 10 minutes and I'm out of battery. And he's like, yeah, no problem. So for me, it's funny because like I'm a solutions person, you know, and when there's an issue, I just confront it. I don't freak out. I don't panic. I pivot. Wow. And I think it's so important to walk through life that way, because how many other situations are going to happen where that's the case, you know? And it's happened to me in the past. You know, I had a SLS, for example, canceled on me 24 hours before a massive event where I had Jen Gottlieb and a whole bunch of huge speakers coming and like 200 RSVPs. And less than 20, they canceled because they had, I think it was a production from Hollywood that was paying them $1 million opposed to what were they going to make with me. And I totally understood, but I didn't panic. I pivot, you know, and I didn't even ask my team to go look for another venue. I went by feet to South Beach and I found a venue, you know? So it's all about precision, domination, and execution.
Love it. Love it. Because most people, I mean, quite frankly, would just cancel. They go the easy route, you know, they just choose to be lazy and say, oh, well, it's not going to work out today. And I love the fact that you always, you know, I've actually, Amber will tell you a lot. I use that pivot line a lot. So we never panic, ever.
Exactly.
I love, here's actually a quote. It says, God doesn't give you a vision that you can't execute. Whatever you feel passionate about, go out there and find a way to make it happen. And that's exactly what you just said. So I love that.
Absolutely.
So you're the founder and CEO of Epic Talks, Keynote and international motivational speaker, Transformational Mindset Mentor coach, best-selling author of Detoxify Your Mind, networking queen, like that one. Is that self
actually,
named,
a lot of the people have given that to me.
I like it. And community builder. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about Epic Talks and how that came about.
So when I first moved to Miami, I was in medical sales, orthopedic sales.
Okay.
And I remember I was just going to networking events, looking to get into the personal development space. I had just graduated from a couple of emotional intelligence academies. I did Warrior Camp. I did Peak Potentials with Steve Harv Eker. And I made personal development my religion pretty much. And I knew in the moment that I was taking those classes that I wanted to be a speaker. And I wanted to share my story because I wanted to create more impact. You know, when you're in medical sales, you can only create so much impact, right? Mm-hmm. I wanted my own kind of impact. And I was walking over the bridge in Brickell and I was thinking to myself, man, I think I'm going to leave Miami, because at the time it wasn't what it is now.
Right.
You know, there wasn't networking events like Epic Talks. It was more like, hey, here's my business card.
And what year is this?
This was like 6 years ago.
Okay.
So 2018.
Yeah, a lot has changed in 6 years. Yeah. Yep.
So then I'm walking over the bridge and I remember, crazy enough, I'm thinking to myself, I was like, well, all these speakers are in Los Angeles, like Lewis House, Alexi Panos, you know, Tim Story. And I think Tony Robbins was there at the time too. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna move over there. But then I had like this little voice that said, well, if it doesn't exist, you're gonna create it.
Yeah.
And from the moment that I thought of my first event to the moment I had it, it was only 3 days. Yeah, so really? I thought of the idea and I called a girlfriend of mine who's a law professor at the University of Miami, and I said, Alicia, you've been a speaker before in front of people. I'm gonna throw an event, would you help me? Because I'd never spoken before.
Yeah.
You know, I just knew I wanted to share my story, but I was afraid of public speaking too, you know? So she's like, sure. She thought I was BSing her. And I went on Canva and I created these little flyers. I took a picture of hers, a picture of mine, and at the time I called it Epic Life Masters.
Okay.
And it's funny because I just told you that me and Ivan dated, and literally he saw me throw my first event.
No way.
Yes.
All right.
So I passed that. I went to FedEx Kinko, printed out 100 flyers, and I rented the ballroom in the building that I lived at, and I just waited. And I went to Whole Foods, got a couple of bottles of water, wine, cheese and crackers. And I'm just there with Ivan just waiting. And 15 people showed up to my first event.
Okay.
And out of those 15, 8 of them were my friends.
Yeah.
So, but I just remember in that moment, I was sharing my story and I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't care what it's going to take. I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen, you know? And then, in my second event, which was three months afterwards, I was like, how can I make this more popular? So I reached out to Jason Stone and, you know, millionaire mentor.
Yep.
So Jason, and then Andres Ospina, who I graduated from one of the courses that I took. And then Luis Escobar, who was helping me build websites and all that stuff. And I said, hey guys, I just want you to be speakers at my stage and just bring your people, especially because Jason has a whole bunch of followers. So the second event, we had 120 people show up.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, yes, like, you know, like all excited. And of course they were, you know, free tickets and people were just coming. I had food, I had music, you name it, you know? And we all sucked at speaking. I remember telling Jason, I'm like, Jason, you need to take classes. I mean, I could use some help too, whatever. But people were having such a great time, you know? And, I just decided, okay, I'm gonna make this something. And of course, after a year, everybody kind of going their separate ways, and I just stuck with it, you know. And I started charging them $15 a ticket, and I was scared to charge $15 a ticket, but you know, every month I was losing money because you know it wasn't profitable. I didn't know what I
involved in it. So.
Yeah, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So then the second year I was like, okay, $15 a ticket, then $30 a ticket. And I was like, the right people are going to stay, the wrong people are going to fall off. And that's exactly what happened. The moochers would come for free drinks and food. They didn't come. Right. And then the ones that really wanted to learn and network and collaborate and build relationships, they were staying. And then the pandemic happens. So I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I thought I was about to get out of the medical industry. And then that also slowed down. So I was like, I'm not going to let my company go to waste. So I started doing little Zoom calls and, one-on-one coaching. And in the middle of the pandemic, I started looking for places that were going to allow me to do a small event, not as big.
Right.
And I had a girlfriend of mine who used to own a gallery studio. And she was like, as long as everybody comes in through the back, we're good.
Right.
So my first event, I charged $50 a ticket. You know what I mean? And I had never charged that. I'm like, well, whoever wants to come, they're tired of being home, they're going to pay it, right? So I had one of Tony Robbins' speakers come and speak at my first one. And again, it was like 15 people. A lot of people were still scared of showing up and whatnot. So then after that, I kept having like little small ones here and there. And all of a sudden, Miami starts opening up, but the SLS swim week and Art Basel was still canceled. But I was allowed to throw an event there. So I ended up combining Fashion Week and Art Basel into one event. I charged $150 a ticket, 350 people showed up.
Amazing.
And ever since, Epic Talks became what it is now. And of course, I continue nurturing my relationships and just making it the number one entrepreneurship event in Miami. That happens monthly.
Yeah. So you said multiple times your story. You wanted to tell your story.
Yeah.
So what is your story?
My story? Well, This water. Let's see if it's good.
Cheers to No Days Off.
No Days Off. I love it. Yummy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my story, I was a foster child and I was born into heroin addicted parents. And I went into the foster care system at the age of 3. And I look at my story as something I would never change, because if it wasn't for what I come from, I wouldn't be who I am, right. And I experienced a lot of adversity and a lot of pain growing up. But I didn't allow that to steal my joy and steal my passion for life, And my father actually passed away from a heroin overdose 2 years ago. And my mother's a minister. So, it just goes to show what happens when you really decide to change your life and then the other person doesn't, and because I experienced so much adversity in my life, I just knew I was meant for something great. I don't know how I got that thought process, but I just know that I knew I didn't want to be a victim of my circumstances.
Do you remember like how early that feeling came about?
Well, ever since I was little, I always tried to figure things out. Like if somebody would say no, I would figure out a way to get a yes. Or I'll give you an example. Like if they're telling me, this door is locked, you can't go into this event or whatever. Oh, I'll find a way, So I just always had that in me, and like when I was in 3rd grade, there was a basketball team, right? And it was a boys basketball team and I was good at playing basketball. And I asked the coach if I could start playing. And I remember moving from the States to Puerto Rico when I was in 3rd grade. So I was already playing sports when I was in elementary school here in New Hampshire. So long story short, he started letting me play and I was a lot better than some of the boys. So he would put me to play more than some of the kids and the kids they started complaining. So he would keep me on majority of the game, but I would take a break. Then he would put me you know what I mean? Like whatever, I was just better than them. Sorry guys. So then they complained to their moms and then the moms went to the principal and it was an academy or whatever. So the coach, like I could see the pain in him, you know what I mean? Right. Telling me that he put us all together and he was like, because of the complaints that we've experienced, we have to let her go, but just so you know, she's better than most of you or whatever. And I remember experiencing that and I was crushed. So when I came back to school in 4th grade, I asked him, I was like, could we start a girls basketball team? So we'll have the boys and we'll have the girls and the girls will just compete against girls. Yeah. So I ended up starting the girls basketball team throughout the school. So elementary school started it and then junior high and then high school, So it's just like anytime there's a no, I always find a way to get a yes, or if it's a no, I'll create the yes.
It, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's 4th grade to be like to create a basketball team out of thin air is that's leadership. Like that's recognizing that there's a need and then making it happen. So that's really cool.
Absolutely.
So in that time of like, so kind of like, give me a little bit more background on this. So you grew up in New Hampshire, you said?
Well, I was born in Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So you're Puerto Rican?
I'm Puerto Rican,
okay.
100%.
All right.
Born and raised.
All right.
So I grew up in Puerto Rico, like a couple...
San Juan?
Close to it.
Okay.
Rio Piedras.
Oh, okay.
So close to it. And then I was like 2 weeks, and then my parents moved me to the States, to Worcester, Massachusetts. It's like
wildly different.
Wildly different. And then, you know, that's where everything happened. The drug use, you know, my father abusing my mother and like all this crazy stuff. And then, you know, the foster care system came to take us away. And my foster parents that got us, it was 3 of us, like my brother, my older brother, my little sister. My little sister was 9 months. I was 3. My brother was 5. So the foster family that took us in, they could only take 2 of us. So they took my brother and myself, and then my little sister went with another family. So then I'm grateful for this family, even though I had a really difficult childhood with them. I'm grateful for them because they instilled in me what God is, you know, and I grew up in church and you know, reading the Bible, and I was able to be in a little choir with singing in church and stuff like that. So that's really important to me because I still carry those beliefs with me. So I'm grateful for that. But what was the question again? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Just keep telling your story. Like it's fascinating. I mean, to see where you are today.
Okay, yeah.
And what you've come from. I think it's important to kind of tell like how you ended up here.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely,
like,
absolutely. So then from when they got me, my foster parents, we moved to New Hampshire because my foster dad was a professor at Keene State University in New Hampshire. Okay. So from there, he got offered a position in the university in Puerto Rico. It's a private university called the Adventist University. So Antillean, that's what it's called. So we moved there, and it's like literally in the middle of the mountains. Like you know, I grew up running in the rivers. My aunts and uncles had horses and cows and waking up with chickens and stuff like that. But in the university, it was like more secluded, and we didn't have any animals, but just waking up in the middle of the jungle pretty much. So that was a cool experience, you know?
Was it wild that you were from Puerto Rico and then ended up back in Puerto Rico? Like, is that...
No.
Was it like, did it kind of be like, oh, wow, this is...
No, not at all. I'm kind of like a chameleon. I adapt to any environment. So that's when I went into 3rd grade, and that's when the whole basketball thing happened. Okay. But yeah, that's how I ended up back in Puerto Rico.
And then when did you end up in Miami?
Oh my goodness. So I ended up leaving Puerto Rico when I was 15, went back to Massachusetts, and ended up in Orlando, finished high school. Well, I got kicked out of high school because I was missing too many days of school.
What were you doing when you were
it's funny because like I've been on my own since I was like 15, just couch hopping or, you know, living with different people, friends from school and stuff like that. And I used to take the bus from Orlando to Kissimmee at 5 o'clock in the morning. So imagine being that age, barely sleeping. So I would take the public transportation, and I would fall asleep, and I would end up in Disney because it would start in Orlando, right? And then it would go to Kissimmee, and then all the way like this, and then Disney's here. Half of Disney is in Kissimmee, and the other half is in Orlando. People don't know that. So once I ended up in Disney, it's like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm already missing school, and I'm like, I've never been to Disney before. I remember that when I was little, my foster dad was like, oh, we'll never take you to Disney. They couldn't afford it, right?
Right.
So I was able to figure out a way of getting in for free. So at the time, the employee parking lot, I don't know how it is now, but I figured out a way to get in through the employee parking lot, and that they would pass and just show their badges as they're walking in. Yeah. And that's how I learned how to get in for free. You know what I mean? So I started skipping school and just, I wasn't getting into trouble or anything. I was just missing school, you know? And then I ended up getting kicked out, and my principal was like, you're just another Latina statistic who'll never amount to anything. So, which I love that because I share that, and I really wish I could find them today, because I'm a true believer that people who have the audacity to say that to someone else, especially someone younger than them, is someone who's just hurting. You know, if anything, they should come to you with like, hey, what is going on? How can we help you? How can the school help you? Right. You know? Right. So I ended up going to like this private class where you had to finish on your own. So I did, you know, I didn't even have a graduation or anything. But yeah, that's how I ended up finishing high school. And then from there, just, you know, went to New York City and tried to start a music career, did a little bit of modeling, and then met my ex-husband at the age of 21, fell in love, and kind of put my music career dreams, I didn't care about it anymore. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So we moved to Miami to try to start a real estate business. And then, you know, my entrepreneurship journey started there, and now we're no longer together, but I'm here just building the most amazing platform that I could possibly imagine. And, you know, because of that divorce, like I had hit rock bottom. This was like 9 years ago. Okay. And I had experienced the kind of betrayal that I've never seen before. So it shook me for like 2 years. You know, it shook me for 2 years where I was being self-destructive, you know, because he was the only thing that I knew. And I just thought that this was somebody that was never going to betray me. You know what I mean? Right. So in that moment when that happened, I was like, oh my God, every person that I've loved have betrayed me, from being a foster child, from, you know, not being happy when I was in the foster care system, to like just experiencing all these things and being homeless and living out of my car when I was in high school, you know, when I was finally able to get my own car. So just experiencing all these things, then I went through that rabbit hole of like, oh, everybody's going to fail me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I started drinking and I started partying and I started, you know, trying new drugs and all that crap. And I remember waking up one morning and I looked at myself in the mirror. This is like after a good hangover. I remember looking at myself in the mirror and I said, are you proud of the woman you've become? And I had to say it out loud, you know, and I've shared this before in other interviews, where if you're asking for advice, you're the only one that could tell yourself the truth, because your soul doesn't lie to you. And how do you speak to your soul? Go look at yourself in the mirror, because your eyes don't lie to you, right. You know? So it was in that moment, and I said it out loud. I'm like, no, I'm not proud of who I've become. So what are you going to do about it? I'm going to change, you know? And I'm the kind of person, once I make a decision, it's over. You know what I mean? Like I'm committing to it, you know? So I ended up seeing like an ad on Facebook that said, reignite your life, your finances, and your future, free ticket. And I was like, free ticket? I always think anything free is a cult, or, you know, there's definitely something they're trying to get you, right? So I ended up contacting a girlfriend of mine, Alexi Panos. Do you know Alexi Panos?
Wow, the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, Kristen Smiles, Alexi Panos.
It sounds familiar. I'm sure I know who
they're motivational speakers. She and I know each other from back in the day in New York City, like 20-something years ago. And I said to her, hey girl, have you ever heard of this company, Peak Potentials by T. Harv Eker? You know T. Harv Eker, right? From The Millionaire Mind, from back in the day. He's like the guy that started the events, you know, with Tony Robbins around that era, you know? Okay. So she was like, no, I don't know about it. But she's like, if there's one positive thing that you get out of it, it's a win situation. So I ended up booking my flight, my hotel room, and I went. And that event literally changed my life forever. And, you know, I was just surrounding myself with people who wanted to better their lives, people who were seeking for more, people who really wanted to, you know, start their own companies, or already had their own companies, but wanted more out of life. And I made it my religion for 2 years. I end up investing $10,000 at the end of the 3 free days? Yes, I did. But it's because that energy was there. I felt so good about it, you know, and I was like, this is exactly what I need. And when I went back home, I stopped everything that I was doing and I just devoted myself to becoming who I am today.
I love it. I love it. So when did you write your book?
Detoxify Your Mind.
Yeah.
I wrote my book, I think it was like 4 years ago.
Yeah?
Yeah, 4 years.
And what inspired that? Just your whole, everything you been through?
Yeah, so for me, I'm the kind of person that when I find the solution for something, I want to share it. I'm not selfish. I like, a lot of people are like, oh, I know the secret to this. Shh, don't tell anybody. No, I need this. I know the secret to this. Here, let me tell you what I know. Yeah. You know, because I want to see people win. And a lot of people, they're going through so much because they don't know that there's a way out, you know? And in my book, I made it a guidebook, like a workbook. Okay. You go in there and you fill out questions in each chapter. I ran out of them. If not, I would have brought you one. Sorry about that. I need to order some more. But in that book, I take you through a discovery process, who you are right now and who do you want to become, and then I take you through that and letting you know that there's beauty in the storm. Every storm the reason why we go through difficulties, I'm a true believer, is because once you accomplish the goal of coming out of that and having that breakthrough, you get to heal someone that's going through the same thing, right? So you can't preach something you've never lived. You know what I mean? So I can't sit here and tell you, let me give you an example, like being the daughter of a police officer, right? I couldn't tell you what that's about because I haven't experienced that. But I could tell you what a divorce feels like, being a foster child, living out of your car, getting kicked out of high school, right? So it's in that book where I share my journey and how I was able to overcome everything, and I give you the simple steps that I use. And it's actually simple. It's not complicated. I talk about your mission statement, how to find that, how to find your purpose. I talk about forgiveness. I'm a true believer that forgiveness sets you free, and like 2 years ago when my father passed away, I was there looking at him in the casket, and it was my brother who I hadn't spoken to in 10 years and my little sister. And the three of us were just looking at him, and I was like, damn, Dad, I wonder if I would have told you that I forgive you if you would have stopped using, So that's something that it always weighs on my mind. But forgiveness will set you free, and I talk about that in the book, and I'm a true believer that it's a simple book, and if you go through it, it will change your life. I
love that you made it simple too, because there's so much, simplicity and things like I think people try to make things too hard, or they overcomplicate things. So I love that. Are you still doing medical sales?
No.
Like, hell no. You're
no, it's been 4 years.
Do you think that some of that though prepared you to help you kind of in selling like what you're doing now?
I think everything in my life has helped me to prepare me for what I'm doing now. There's been nothing more fulfilling and harder than I've ever done doing what I do now.
Okay.
Cool.
And you're a competitor?
Well, I competed. Yeah. Yes, once.
Once. Okay.
Once. Yes.
How did you enjoy the process, or did you hate it?
You know what? I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I could have that much discipline.
Yeah.
And it was pretty crazy. I would take my meals with me, and at the time I was traveling a lot.
Right.
And I had this little cooler that was always with me. That was like my best friend. And I did the Christmas classic, so it was right before Christmas. So that means for Thanksgiving and
holidays,
Christmas,
right?
And I was going to dinners and events, and you name it. And I just felt at peace. People were like, "Oh, you can't." I'm like, "No, I'm gonna win." I'm gonna win.
I'm committed.
I'm committed. And I was with my 2 ounces of freaking tilapia and 2 ounces of spinach, and my 2 hours of cardio a day. It was crazy. But I remember in that moment when it was the day of, I was like, with this other 6 girls that we were kind of training with the same trainer. I'm like, holy shit, we did it. Oh my goodness. I couldn't believe it. I'm like looking at myself. I'm like, you know what I mean?
No, it's just very
it's euphoric.
Accomplishing. Like, you feel a sense of accomplishment. For sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was honestly one of the best days of my life.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. I loved it. I wouldn't do it again though.
Yeah.
No, I'm done.
Yeah, it's an interesting community too of people.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? I'm on 75 hard right now.
Oh yeah? No, you're doing 75 hard?
Yeah. Okay. My last day is Friday the 23rd. So I'm 8 days away. So days 67, 68.
Nice.
Yeah.
You enjoying it?
Yeah. Yes and no. It's been because I'm so busy right now. I'm in the middle of 2 launches, and then I've been traveling too. And I was like,
traveling's got to be hard.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. You know what I mean? That gallon of water and all this stuff. And I don't recommend it to anybody that has a super busy schedule. Yeah. I just don't, you know?
Well, especially you got to get that second outdoor workout.
You have to. And then, you know what's funny? When I read the 10 pages, I have to stand up because normally it's at like midnight. And my day is done, and it's been a crazy day, and I have to stand up because if I try reading it sitting down, I have found myself like falling asleep.
Yeah.
So I just laugh at myself, but yeah, it's been cool.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it's my second time around actually. The first time I only lasted 36 days.
What drives you?
What drives me? Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. what drives me is for people to feel fulfillment, and it's possible. I see that a lot of people live their life in a way that is not gratifying to them, and they just don't know that there's a better way. And for me recently, I came back to God, if that makes any sense. I grew up in church as a Seventh-day Adventist, and the last couple of years I know that God is with me, and I know that the reason why I am where I am is because of him, but I wasn't really caring about forming a relationship with him. And when I made the decision of doing 75 Hard, I saw my girlfriend Sandy Glant. Sandy Glant? She's married to Jared Glant from Grant Cardone.
I mean, I'm sure I've seen them, but I don't know.
Anyways, she's one of my best friends, and she's posting a video on Instagram. She goes, and I just moved to a new spot that I'm in love with, and she goes, "Hey guys, I'm gonna start 75 Hard. Anybody that wants to join?" And I was like, I want to join, you know what I mean? Because new place, new habits, what can I let go of, you know what I mean? And always accountability always helps. I prefer doing things with accountability than doing it alone. You know what I mean? You're checking in with someone, they're making sure you're on point, you're making sure they're on point, you know what I mean?
That's the whole premise of my gyms too, is accountability.
Exactly. So then it was in that same day that I was like, okay, I'm starting 75 Hard tomorrow. It was a Sunday, she said that. Monday we were starting it. So I went to the supermarket, I'm over there getting the stuff, everything so I could meal prep. And then I saw a friend of mine, Andrew Loringer, posting about prayer group at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was like, damn, that sounds like fun. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm starting 75 Hard and I'm going to start the prayer group. And let me tell you something. It was in the second day that I just felt the presence of the Holy Spirit. I don't know if what your beliefs are or anything, but I have felt the presence of the Holy Spirit before. I grew up in church, and I was like, oh my goodness. And then I just started feeling that all the bad habits that I had in my life, they were easy to let go of. Like I wasn't missing them. I didn't care to meet up with some friends for happy hour or, just go to places that they're not good for my growth. You know what I mean? Right. And so I was just continue praying. And I was like, I want you, Lord, to show me the way. Show me the way so I can create more impact. And I cannot even begin to explain to you how many doors have been opening up for me. Door after door. And I'm talking about 68 days now. Right. The doors that have been opening up for me, if I were to tell you, it would blow your mind. And I can't right now because we're still in the process of creating some, contracts and stuff like that. But I was like, oh, okay, God, this is what you wanted me, so I could go so I could go to the next level, and that's what drives me right now, is to share with people the goodness of God, so they know that He can open doors and He can heal you. It doesn't matter what you're going through. And to see the transformation of people that have gone into the prayer group, it started with 6 people. It started with 6 people 3 months ago, and now it's at almost 400 people in the WhatsApp group. And every morning from 5 a.m. to 5:20, we gather together. Obviously, not everybody shows up. It's it gets to 80 people, 90 people, whatever. But just feeling that energy. Everybody's on a Zoom. You don't have to show your face, but we just devote 20 minutes to God. And I'm not being quiet about this. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm like, you really want fulfillment in your life. It doesn't matter what you're going through. I'm going to honor Him even in my moments of weakness. So I love that. I did a podcast yesterday, and I was talking about how when you have true faith, then you have true favor. So when you live with faith, then you know that you have God's hand on your life. So doors open, So. It's funny. I'm walking around now, I feel like I have a superpower, and I've been building Epic Talks without God at the forefront of my life, and I'm getting emotional. Sorry. Sorry. And I was going through some moments where I was just like, oh my God, wins, losses, people, showing up in ways that I wouldn't show up, you know what I mean? And I remember just asking for help, to God. I'm like, Lord, guide me, because my vision is big. I want to continue impacting people's lives and seeing how people are being transformed, their businesses. People are finding marriages through Epic Talks. I have this guy that raised $1.5 million because he spoke at Epic Talks. People they're getting access to my speakers, and these are speakers that are transforming people's lives and businesses, right? And I'm like, Lord, how can I impact people more? And it's ever since I decided to put him at the front that I'm getting the answers that I was looking for. Mm-hmm. And I just want to share that with people, for them to know that if you're struggling and you're feeling like forsaken and you're feeling like this is the darkest place you've ever been in, just seek God and he'll be there for you.
I love that. So not every Sunday, but most Sundays I do church before church with my pastor. So I train him on Sunday mornings at 5 a.m.
Oh, who's your pastor?
Rich Wilkerson.
Oh, you go to VU?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So the prayer group that I'm in, you know Andrew Loringer from The Move?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
He's like one of my best friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. He started coming to Epic Talks when I first started it.
No way.
So because of him, I found out about prayer group. And you know what's crazy? 7 months ago, I texted him. And I'd call him Drewski. I was like, Drewski, I'm ready. And he goes, what do you mean? I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to go to church.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay, we're going this Sunday. And for some reason, I didn't go. And then I just there was still like some kind of wall, right? And it was when he posted about prayer group. I was like, all right, I'm starting prayer group. And it's changed my life.
Are you going to VU?
No, I'm not.
No?
I haven't gone to church yet.
Oh, you still haven't gone to church?
No, I still haven't gone to church.
You got to come.
Yeah, I will.
I mean, you know, it's a fantastic community.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would love it.
You know what's crazy? When
you should get Rich on your Epic Talks too.
I will. I want to.
You should get me and him both on there. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll definitely keep that in mind.
Rich is one of the best communicators on the planet.
Okay.
Like even outside of church, like he's one of the most gifted communicators and leaders that I've ever been around. So,
okay. Yeah. I've been to VU before, years ago though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be ready to come soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Manning.
Yes.
Manning.
Yeah. Or as the Colombians say, Maninga.
Manning.
They crack me up. I'm like, no, it's Manning.
Manning.
Yeah. But when you live in Miami, I've been in Miami for 23 years. And I mean, getting people to call me Manning.
Where are you from?
Alabama.
Okay. Yeah. So how did you end up in Miami?
So I was a strength and conditioning. Well, I played football at Auburn University. Then I went to Alabama, Birmingham, where I'm from. I went to Briarwood Christian School. Okay. Yeah. So I've been. I mean, my mom's like one of the most beautiful prayer warriors, like intercessory prayer. You know, I've been in church, every single kind of church you can think of since I was. You know what I mean? So
me too.
Yeah. Baptist, Catholic, Episcopalian, like everything. Yeah, everything. So
me too.
We've danced, shouted, screamed. The whole nine. So, I was in Birmingham, Alabama. I was a strength and conditioning coach at Samford University, and a buddy of mine called me, and he was a model here in Miami, 6'5", beautiful black man that was a really close friend of mine. Is it Tony Thomas? No. No. I did a podcast with Tony Thomas.
That's my boy. I love Tony. Yeah. Who doesn't?
Tony and I have been friends for 14 years. So yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You should watch our episode. It's great.
Okay, I definitely will. I love him so much.
Yeah, Tony's the man. I've known Tony for years. But I called him up. His name is Ibrahim, and or he called me up and he said, "Hey, if you shave your head in this one, I had hair, so I can get you a stunt double job on Bad Boys 2." So I kid you not, I shaved my head like 30 minutes later.
You look like Vin Diesel or something like that?
No, it was a character called Zank, one of the SWAT team guys. And they hired me like instantly. So I told my mom and dad I was driving to Miami. So I had $2,000 to my name, a Nissan Maxima with cloth interior. It was a stick shift. It was a piece of shit. And I got in, drove all the way to Miami. I'll never forget coming over the Miami Beach bridge and then hitting Alton, and then getting on Euclid, and Euclid, it was like, all like bumpy. And I remember just saying, I'm never going back. Like, I'm never going home. Wow. And just having this like feeling like I'm not going anywhere. And then me and him, so imagine like I'm, pretty big guy, 6'2", 220. He's 6'4", 6'5", 200. And we're in the tiny studio apartment. Like the kitchen was touching like the bathroom, the bed. Like it was a little teeny studio apartment. And so I did the stunt double thing, but I was only getting paid like $300 a day. So it wasn't really something that could sustain. And it was only for like 3.5 months. So I walked
every single day?
But it was Yeah, it was every day. Yeah.
Okay.
I went every day. Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that much work. Like, but I had my own trailer. Like, it was fun.
That's awesome.
They did makeup and bullet hole wounds, and it was really a fun experience.
I love it.
It tricked me though in thinking that I was going to be like a famous, actor and model and all this stuff. So, so then I knew I needed to make more money, and so I walked into Crunch, and I'll never forget Scott Hauser. This cute little gay guy was at the front, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, who are you?" Like that. And I introduced myself. He walked me upstairs, and he hired me on the spot as a personal trainer. At the time, there was 38 personal trainers. I was 39, and in less than 2 months, I had more clients than anybody in the gym.
Wow!
And it was just because I came from that hustle. Like, I would get up, 4 o'clock in the morning and work till 11. Like, I was just a hustler. Yep. And I had like 17 gay clients too. So they all loved me there.
Oh, of course.
So they ate it up. And, and then, what was the original question? How I got here? That's it. Yeah. And then the rest is history.
Okay. So I want to know a little bit about you.
That was 2001. So yeah.
So, obviously everybody has a journey. I love listening to entrepreneurs that just started from the bottom up, you know? So what was that moment that you were no longer a trainer? What was the next business that you got into?
Well, so what it was, so I had built up a massive clientele. Like, I was training professional athletes. I was training high-end clients. I had, 29 clients, but then in the off season, I was training Drew Rosenhaus, all of his NFL guys, from Jeremy Shockey to Antro Roll to Devin Hester to Barrett Askew, like all these super famous football players and stuff. And then I met this guy named Troy Stratus, who is a very well-known con man, but at the time I didn't know. And he met me in Flamingo Athletic Club, and this is when I was like, I was living on the water. I was making crazy money for a trainer, like 30, 40,000 a month, like balling,
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, will you be my private personal trainer, bodyguard, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "We're going to travel. We're going to do this." And I was like, "Yeah." And I don't know. I just wanted to do something different. So the next day I'm in a private jet flying to LA. He takes me, I meet Eddie Murphy's ex-wife. So I start training them. I'm in LA for like 6 months, and then it got weird, and that's a whole long story. But it ended up coming back to Miami with nothing, lost like all those clients, like had to start over basically. So I came to Miami, back to Miami, and had to start over.
So question, would you change anything from that?
No, not at all.
Why did you come with nothing? Like, you left with, making a lot of money.
So remember,
of the con artist?
So exactly. So what happened was I gave up. I actually gave a 20-something-year-old trainer all my business so that I could leave. And I got paid $10,000 up front, but that was all the money I saw ever. He kept kind of stringing me along, like, "Oh, I'll pay you when we get back. Oh, I'll do that, that kind of thing." So then finally it got to the point where I was like, all right, something's up. Yeah. And then it's a weird story, so I don't want to get into it right now. But so then I was like, I'm leaving. So I just took a flight and just came back. Gotcha. And when I got back, I had to literally start over. But because of my resume and who I was and whatever, I immediately ended up training Scott Stapp, who was the former lead singer of Creed, and kind of became his main personal trainer, bodyguard, nutritionist, all that. So I kind of, I got it back pretty fast.
Yeah.
And then started training, other people. And then I met a guy and I started training him. And it's actually interesting. I put a newspaper ad out. Not Craigslist, but I think it was New Times or something, personal trainer available. And this guy found me, called me, and I'll never forget, he hired me. And then about on day 10 or something, it was a 7 a.m. session. And I showed up at 7:01, okay? And he wasn't there. And I was like, what the hell? Where is he? I was blowing him up on the phone. I was like, and we trained every day. So I was like, what's going on? And he never responded. And so I was like, all right. And then the next day I showed up at 6:30, just to make sure. And then he came in and he didn't say one word to me the entire session.
This is the singer?
No, this is another client.
Okay,
another
gotcha.
Client. And so I was like, at the end of the session, I trained him very professionally. And then at the end of the session, I was like, is everything okay? I was here at 7:01. He goes, don't ever be late ever again. Like that. And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it just it made me understand what it takes to be and I hate the word luxury, but to be premium, excellent, to be the best is, I don't like the word best, but just to be a high level trainer, to be someone that is going to be sought after to the celebrities, the person, the high net worth people. So it was a great learning lesson. And from that day on, I mean, I was so like buttoned up, from the way I dressed, from the way it changed me like instantly. So it was great. And then through that guy, he was like, why don't you have your own gym? And I was like, I mean, that's a good question, like, why shouldn't I, I should have my own gym. And he's like, let's open up a gym. And I was like, all right. So that's in 2007, I started to kind of like get poster board and draw my vision for my gym. Mm-hmm. And then in 2008, November 2008, I opened the gym with him. And I mean, it's such a long story. So I mean, there's so many like ins and outs. I mean, it's been a 15-year journey, but yeah.
That's how you got into entrepreneurship.
So that was when I opened my gym. And then I would say, so your question was like kind of when I stopped being a trainer. It wasn't that I stopped being a trainer, because I mean, I still train a little bit now. I mean, only like 1 or 2 people. But what I did was I realized I was training like 16-hour days.
Yeah, that's exhausting.
And I was just like, it was killing me, killing me. And it was right around the time that Barry's Boot Camp was becoming really popular, CrossFit, Orange Theory, all these kind of like new boutique style gyms were popping up. And I saw that, and it didn't, the light bulb didn't go off just immediately, but I was thinking like, I need to do something like that. I was thinking in my mind. So then one day I double booked. And I used to do it on purpose all the time. I would double book clients because I was tired of clients not showing up. So then I'd just have a backup. Or if they showed up together, because my facility was so small, I could just train them at the same time. They got a great workout, and I got paid double, so it was all good. And no one ever complained, so it was fine. And so I double booked, had a Dallas Cowboys running back named Marion Barber, God rest his soul, he passed away, but he's 6'3", 240 pounds, and I was going to train him. And then at the same time, I had this woman that was like 300 pounds overweight, and she showed up. I acted like it was meant to be. I put them through this same workout. At the end of the workout, they were smiling, they were high-fiving, they were hugging each other. It was like the greatest. And then a light bulb went off, and I was like, wait a minute, I can do this like at scale. I can train regular people and professional athletes the exact same way. Like, I'm overthinking this. So then I created, and it was also, so 2008 was not exactly a great time, and it was right after the session. There was not a lot of people paying $200 an hour. That's when
the real estate market collapsed, 2008, 2009.
So it wasn't a great time to be a personal trainer. So then I also was like, okay, well, what if I started, and back then it was called boot camp, right? Everything was boot camp. So I was like, well, what if I started this boot camp and did this and trained everybody the same way? And I kid you not, within like 2 weeks, I had 100-something people come into the class. And it was like, $25 a pop. Did it Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. But it got so wild, like 100-something people coming. You can even ask Tony, it was wild, like, people just everywhere, that I was like, okay, this isn't gonna work because of accountability, because of safety. I was like, this is too big. So then one day I was like, well, wait a minute. What if I paired everybody up? So I started pairing people up. So I turned 100 people into 50 people. And then I remember being in the middle of the facility and just kind of like standing there and watching people encourage each other, count each other's reps, high-fiving each other, spotting each other.
Getting goosebumps,
like, and it just, and I would like to say that I, created all this and like, in a lab and all this, but it almost happened organically. And then I was like, okay, how can I make it better? So, you start to take out the scary exercises, like the sledgehammer hits and the rope climb, and like you start to make it a little bit more practical, and so that anybody and everybody. I said if a 350-pound person completely out of shape can't do it, then it's not going to be part of the program. So started to simplify it, and then CrossFit was a big component of this because I saw what they were doing, and I loved the community that they were building, but I thought that they were not being smart about the choices in exercises and stuff like that. So I was like, how can I make this safer so that people stop getting hurt so much, and so that anybody can do it, a 7-year-old or a 70-year-old. And then that's when I was like, well, wait a minute. Traditional selectorized equipment has never been used in a group exercise format.
Yeah.
So most of the time it's all body weight, barbells, kettlebells, things like that. So what if we take these traditional pieces of equipment that everybody uses at every single gym and use it together? So you go, your partner goes, you go, your partner goes. So it's 20 stations, 2 minutes a station, 30 seconds in between each station. We have different rep schemes. So say your rep scheme for Monday is 6. So you would do 6 reps, I do 6 reps. You do 6 reps, I do 6 reps for the entire 2 minutes. And then we go to the next station. And then I was a big component of push-pull, so antagonistic training. So if you do a movement this way, then you got to do a movement this way to complement, to balance the body. And so everything is antagonistic. So you do a push movement, a pull movement, and then in between that, you do a high-intensity cardio movement. So it's like if you walked into an LA Fitness and you took that entire gym and made it push-pull cardio, push-pull cardio. So you have rowing, you have fan bike, you have sleds, you have boxing, in between the resistance training. And then obviously, I mean, I know you're a component of this. I mean, without resistance training and high intensity interval training, you can't increase your resting metabolic rate. So it's actually a perfect workout to, burn fat. And it just, and then I was trying to raise money at the time. And this hedge fund guy that owned 33 Planet Fitnesses, he was like, this will never work. He's like, first of all, you care too much. You're actually trying to make a difference. He goes, that's not going to work.
Wow.
He goes, if you stop training, it'll never work. He goes, everybody comes to your gym because of you. It'll never work. And I will never forget having this conversation in my truck because I'm sitting there just getting pissed off.
His own limitations.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, and he was loaded. He owned 33 Planet Fitness. I mean, the guy was hedge fund guy, stupid loaded. It's a close friend of mine. And I'm sitting there, I'm listening to him, getting all mad. And then I hung up and I was like, all right, thanks, man. And I hung up and I was like, well, that's bullshit. I was like, fuck that. I was like, hell no.
You were already seeing the results.
Exactly. So I just jumped out of my car and I was like, I'm going to keep going. So that day I stopped training and I started to pour into my staff and just absolutely teaching them everything I knew, like everything, from all my exercise science, kinesiology, all my years of training. I was like, this is how you're going to do it. This is how you're going to talk. This is how we're going to start. And then I started reading books on psychology. So we do this thing in the beginning of the class, we say, what is this? And then everybody screams back, PIT. And I'm like, what does PIT stand for? And then everybody screams back, partner interval training. And people probably think we do that just to do it. But it's actually shown that's why the military has sergeants or whatever say something and then everybody repeats it. Because what it does, it creates this environment of culture and togetherness. And it also kind of gets people to believe in this team environment and it gets them to keep coming back, I
love it.
So yeah, I mean, again, this 20-something year story, so it's hard to kind of wrap up in a short time.
Well, what do you say was your most difficult moment, creating or becoming an entrepreneur? Was it raising capital? Was it building a gym? Was it, running out of funds? What was it?
I think the hardest thing is always people. It's like in my early days, I had this expectation. I was trying to find myself. I was trying to find other people like me, and that's impossible. But I didn't think that. At the time, I was like, I can find somebody that has this much drive and this much energy and this much passion for what I'm trying to do. And
it's hard to duplicate yourself.
You can't. You can't. And then shout out to Louis Barone. He told me to read a book called E-Myth Seminar by Michael E. Gerber. And I'll never forget, I was on the art trainer. I didn't get off the art trainer until I finished the book. And I mean, I don't even know how long I was on it, but I literally read the entire book on the art trainer. And when I got off, I started creating systems and started writing down everything from basically my today our 68-page training manual. And it was not what I do, but how I do it. And that I want it done like this. And I mean, everything to, almost like a franchise, kind of thing. But then it was, okay, and now I got
What book is that again?
It's a Michael E. Gerber E-Myth Seminar. He actually has 4. And what's actually interesting is you'll read that one. So that's his first book. And then you read E-Myth Mastery.
And that helps you with SOPs?
Systems. Yeah. It's all about systems. It's basically don't work in the business, make the business work for you.
Yes.
Don't be if you're a true entrepreneur, you shouldn't be working like a normal person, whatever. So you got to get it to where the business is working for you and it teaches you how to do that.
Have you read Rocket Fuel?
No. Is it another
Yeah.
good one? Okay, I'll check it out.
But I'm definitely
I'm a big reader, so yeah.
Yeah, I'll check out the ones that you.
Yeah, I've read all of Michael E. Gerber's because it's actually really funny because his last book kind of like contradicts a lot of the first book.
Interesting.
Yeah, because in the first book he basically says like you can teach a monkey to do anything.
So then you shouldn't read the first book, you say?
No.
Okay.
There's still jewels, and it's almost you have to read all of them to kind of for it to all make sense.
Gotcha.
Because all of them talk about it's a progression. And what I love about it is because I'm a constant learner too, is that who I was yesterday is not who I am today. Like I should be a different version of myself than I was yesterday because 100%. I should be always learning, right?
Yep.
So, what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying.
No, I get you.
No, sorry.
Just basically.
It's a lot going on.
No, just I asked you like what was the biggest like lesson or your hardest moment?
Back to people. So in that book, he basically says like you can teach a monkey anything to do anything if you have the right systems.
Yeah.
And it was really hard because some people got it and then some people didn't. Then his last book talks about you have to have extraordinary systems, but you have to have extraordinary people to run those systems. So then he finally admits that I wasn't necessarily right. And so now it's about finding extraordinary people and it's not always the most educated. It's not always the person that looks the part. It's sometimes we find people that like a diamond in the rough. Sometimes we find overweight people that we help lose the weight and then become the greatest, trainers or whatever. So it's, we want people that we call it humble, hardworking, do more than is required. Are you willing to do more than is required? And if you are, you're going to be great.
I have people on my team like that.
Then you're not going to work out for us. And if you start the conversation with what am I going to get paid and what's my this, then it's not going to work out. And that's not the fitness business. It's not really business in general, So that's been probably the hardest thing. And I've had phenomenal people. I've had crappy people. I've had people that have worked for me for 10 years and then quit. I've had people work for me for, still to this day, so it's people is the struggle. I love people too. So
me too.
it's really hard when you, like, I love people and I hate people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, so, cause like I'm the worst at hiring because like, that's why my brother handles a lot of it because I would hire everybody. Cause I love meeting new people and then being a part of improving them, like, like not changing them, but improving them.
I love that.
And so I would say now too, it's been very difficult to deal with when you know your heart and what you're trying to get people to understand and do, and then they, shit on you or leave you or, and then they never get it, So that part has been tough doing this as long as I've been doing it and now having 50 something employees. So really getting people to buy into constantly giving them the vision of where we're trying to take this, that it's bigger than us.
Where do you want to take it?
I want to be bigger than Nike, like I want this, I want no days off. No days off is never taking a day off on you. It's a commitment to becoming your best self. And I want that to resonate across the world. And so one of my favorite movies, I talked about this the other day, is Pay It Forward. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a really good movie. And it shows like the power of just changing one person's life and then how then they can change another person, like that domino effect of change. And so for me, no days off, I want to be as like, just do it. I want the Pitbull to be like the swoosh. I want it to have that kind of an impact and for people to just immediately
recognize. So that's the brand,
recognize.
No Days Off.
Yeah. So what kind of the ethos or the flywheel was I started Legacy Gyms and I knew early on that I was going to be bigger than gyms. Like I knew for a fact that it wasn't just going to be gyms. And so early on, I created No Days Off and the Pitbull to be something that would go beyond the gym walls. So something that people could wear in CrossFit, that they could wear in other gyms and feel proud about it. And I didn't know it was going to be beverages at the time. I mean, that kind of is a crazy story, but I knew something. And people used to like kind of ask me all the time, like, why don't you have Legacy clothes, Legacy this? I was like, Legacy is the gym. I said, but the movement is No Days Off. And so I didn't do a whole lot of stuff with Legacy on it. I did more stuff with No Days Off, the Pitbull. And it took about a decade for people to really buy in. Like I got a lot of pushback on the whole no days off thing, like, oh, you're supposed to rest. And I was like, that's not the point,
Yeah, it's not the
point.
And
then I got a lot of pushback with the dog too, so.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So the way I think about it, you're always going to get pushbacks from people who are not at your level. So I always say, I don't take advice from someone unless I'm willing to trade my life with them.
I love that. Yeah.
So you're giving me relationship advice. Let me see where your relationship is at.
Yeah.
You're giving my financial advice. Let me see, your finances, your taxes, like all this stuff, right? And then also when, I'll give you a good example. People try to tell me, oh, you should have done this differently with your event. I'm like, do you have an event? No. Do you know what it takes to throw an event? No. Okay. Why are you trying to give me, you know what I mean? So for me,
we live in a world that people love giving their opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Without being asked.
Yep.
So for me, when I look at no days off, I think about it, no days off from stepping into the best version of you. No days off from prayer. For me, that's a non-negotiable.
Yep.
No days off from prayer. No days off, even if I'm not pushing it hard at the gym, let me go for a little walk.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Let me go for my meditation walk.
Right.
Or no days off from telling the person that I love you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when I look at that, it's you, nothing has meaning but the meaning you give it,
Yep.
So what's the meaning that your no days off is going to mean? Some people, it might be workout. Some people, prayer. Some people, saying I love you to the person that they love. It's just different for everyone. But I love the brand.
Oh, thank you.
And whatever I could do to support you, have your brand on my events, your water, we'll put it in the VIP bags that we give away. You let me know. I'll bring some people here to work out.
Definitely. Yeah. I love it.
For sure.
All right, let's talk about this networking queen.
I'm kind of like you in a way.
No, it's actually, when you talk, we have a lot of similarities. So for
When's
sure.
your birthday?
July 18th.
Okay, May 27th.
Okay. Wait, my daughter is May 24th.
She's
and my wife is June 1st.
Okay, so Gemini.
Yeah, so maybe there's something there.
Maybe.
Every time I tell people I have a Gemini wife and a Gemini daughter, they're like, good luck. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
We're the best.
I love it.
Every time I don't really know if that means anything.
I know,
people ask
it's
me,
so weird, right?
And they're like, oh, Gemini, you have two sides. I'm like, not really.
I think we all do, though. Like I wouldn't even say two sides. I mean, I have multiple sides. You know what I mean? Like I can be
again, nothing has meaning but the meaning you give it.
Exactly. But talk about a little bit of your process in terms of networking and how you think you got that kind of given title of networking queen. What do you think sets you apart when it comes to that?
I care.
Yeah.
Just like you, like you were saying before, the owner was like, you care too much. Yeah, I care too much because I know what it is to feel alone. I know what it is to feel sad. I know what it is to feel broke. I know what it is to feel like you're doing it all alone. And for me, it's networking has allowed me to have experiences that not a lot of people can say they've had. Yeah. It's allowed me to meet people that I never thought possible, have friendships with billionaires that are famous, just why? Because I always come from a place of service. I never come with, let me take from you and just disappear. I experienced that a lot in my life, especially being the founder of Epic Talks. A lot of people are like, can I get free tickets? Can I be on your stage? Can I this? Can I be on your radio show? Can I do da-da-da-da? And it's like, hey, this is the way they should do it. Ready? Guys listening? The way it is, if you're going to ask me for free tickets, especially if we don't have a relationship, is, hey, I love your event and I want you to know that I'm promoting it and I'm bringing 4 people that just bought tickets. Could you cop me a ticket? Right?
Love that. Yep.
Value, then you ask,
What is your value proposition? Exactly.
And for me, I'm such a giver and I always like to give before I rarely ask. And I'm a true believer that in order for you to get to the next level of your life, it's okay to ask for support and help. I do ask my friends, hey, would you mind promoting my event to your email list or post it on your social medias? And a lot of them do it without me even asking, So again, networking is all about helping people get to the next level of their lives. And the moment you help one person, that person is going to be a raving fan of yours.
Right.
And when you come to Epic Talks, I have thousands of people who have come to my events, hundreds of people that come every single month, and they get so much value. That's why we have such a good reputation in town. So how can I help you get to the next level? Which is the reason why I created the inner circle. So I have a private inner circle membership because people were like, hey, I want more of you, or I want more of your connections, or I want more of this. So in order to get access to all of that, you get to become a member. That way I get to have dinners with you every single month. You know, the inner circle dinner, we'll all come together. We have adventures, we have masterminds and workshops.
So I'm going to add value, I think, in a lot of ways. What I would love to do is offer my new facility for you to host one of your Epic Talks, because it's going to be spectacular. And it's going to be set up to a way that you could make it like really special. So we're opening that in October.
Thank you.
So be thinking about like how you'd want to do that, when you'd want to do it, because I think it could be like really special. So,
well, can I tell you something? I was thinking about doing a biohacking one.
So, I would love that. I would love that.
So
a perfect environment, gym environment, but it's that's so when I decided to do this new headquarters, one of my passions has always been, I love what you do. Like I love these, you know, and I see other people do it. These what am I trying to tell you? Patrick Bet-David does these like, you know, big like events, right? With like different
thousands and thousands of people,
But I do feel like sometimes I feel like these massive ones kind of like, I would rather see a little bit more intimacy in them, personally. It's kind of like my favorite thing in the world is live music, but in an intimate setting. If I could go and sit in a bar and just listen to a guy playing like that has an unbelievable voice playing the acoustic guitar, that's like epic, you know, for me.
So I have that at Epic Talks.
So like, you know what I mean? Like, so I think you've created this like kind of really cool thing, but we'll talk more about that. But yeah, so
that's the beauty of Epic Talks too, is that when Patrick Bet-David is having their events and Grant Cardone and Tony Robbins, there's so many people, and it happens once a year or maybe once every 6 months, right? The beautiful thing about Epic Talks is it's every month. So now you start attending this event that's every single month. Hey, I remember you from last event, and then you're like, oh, so what do you do? What do you need support with? We have someone for everything at Epic Talks. You need funding? We got you. You need to better your credit? We got you. You need ads and automation? I got you.
Yeah.
You need to learn how to create a course? I got you. You know, so think about it as a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs, you know, and anybody that is coming to the event or they're going through Inner Circle, like they go through a vetting process, you know what I mean? So like I make sure that their companies are legit. I make sure that if anyone from my community is doing business with them, that they're in good hands, you know? Right. And the more you show up, the more you build rapport, and now you have a friend and you have a community of creative culture, and that's what's happened with Epic Talks. You
mentioned your dog.
Yes.
And just recently having surgery.
Yes.
Yeah. What have you learned from that experience?
So it's crazy because this was actually, what are we? Yeah, exactly 2 years ago. For some reason, I was thinking it was like a year ago. It was 2 years ago. Okay. Time goes by so fast. So it's crazy.
Fast. Even faster the older you get. So.
Right. So I get a phone call on a Monday in July. I can't remember exactly what date it was, maybe 18th or 19th, something like that. And it was my biological aunt who I hadn't spoken to in years, and she's like, hey, your father just passed away. And when she said that, I knew that it was from a heroin overdose. Because, you know, I'm like, he's 62 years old. Like, what is he going to die of? You know what I mean? And then that Monday he passes away. Friday, my little Jack, who was 17, he died on Friday. Wow. So my dad on Monday, my dog on Friday. He died in my arms too, which was crazy. I never experienced a soul take its last breath. Yeah, it was crazy. And then when he passed away, Blackie is the one that I have now. He's 14. I had to take him to the emergency room like a couple of weeks later. And I was like, oh my God, not you now. You know what I mean? So I went from my dad, my dog Jack, who was already coughing for a really long time, and then he had cancer. I ended up finding out about his cancer a week before he passed away. And a little frustrated with the veterinarians because I feel like they knew and they were just taking my money after thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. And then Blackie, my vet goes, he needs emergency surgery right now. His gallbladder, right? So his eyes were starting to turn yellow and all this stuff. So it was like back to back to back. And end up taking him to the emergency room to have emergency surgery. And they were like, hey, while he was on the table, he needs a blood transfusion. Is it a yes or a no? And I was like, if he doesn't get a blood transfusion, he's going to die. I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? And then it turned from him being into that surgery, turning into a blood transfusion, to then him having to be there an extra 8 days. And I was just like, what is going on? Like, you know, and he survived that surgery, and the vet said, I don't understand how this 3-pound little nugget survived, because he's like, bigger dogs that went through what he just went through, pretty much, they die. And for me, the way I looked at everything, I felt like my dad was Jack and Blackie was me. You know, just being resilient and making sure that he was just going to fight the good fight, you know? And my greatest lesson from all of this is to be resilient and not give up. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what you go through. You know what I mean? Experiencing my dad's death, and then Jack. And then that Wednesday, I was supposed to have Epic Talks.
Oh, wow.
And then I had a whole bunch of my girlfriends are like, oh, just cancel Epic Talks. And for me, it was like, it doesn't matter what you go through. You don't cancel what God put you here to do. I don't care what you're going through. You know, unless I'm the one that's in the hospital or I'm the one that's dead, my event is still happening. So it was about strength and resilience and not giving up. And that was my biggest takeaway. And my dog is doing good now. And then, you know, I'm just a fighter at life. Just like he fought for his life, I fight for mine. And I fight for anybody that's part of my community and is a friend of mine.
What advice would you give to young women who are striving for a life of fulfillment and pursuing their dreams? And what are some key principles or strategies that you can use to overcome obstacles and achieve their goals? Or what is some of the strategies for them to... basically, what advice do you have for young women out there?
The best advice that I could give you for young women out there that are watching this podcast is, before you go into any type of relationship, heal yourself. Heal yourself so you don't bring your trauma into that relationship that's going to jeopardize maybe the good person or the good man, or, you know, and for men, the good woman that you might have in your life. So heal yourself and don't be in a rush. You know, so many women are in a rush to get married or to have a baby. You know, I'm in my 40s, you know, I'm 42 years old, and I was married for 10 years. And then, you know, I ended up getting into a relationship that I thought that was the person that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And I noticed that I hadn't healed from my marriage, and I brought whatever trauma I experienced in that marriage into my relationship. You know what I mean? So a lot of people think, oh, it's fine, it was just a breakup. No, there's a reason why that breakup happened. You know, there was a reason why you were reacting a certain way. And for me, the most important thing is healing. Get yourself help, you know, pray to God, get yourself into personal development, because if you don't focus on your healing, the same story is going to happen to you over and over again. And if you notice, a lot of women, you see them in the same relationships over and over and over and over again, because they haven't healed from what hurt them. And sometimes we think to ourselves, it's them. No, it's you. Especially when you're pointing the finger at someone else, there's 3 pointing back at you. So my best experience is my best advice, don't be in a rush. Take your time and heal yourself from your traumas. And things don't happen to you, they happen for you.
Beautiful, beautiful. This was great.
Thank you.
You're great.